So, what if an entire society, just feeling tired and, well, empty, decided to willingly trade its freedom for a sense of purpose? That is the seriously unsettling question at the heart of Michel Houellebecq's novel Submission. It imagines a near-future France, right on the edge of a massive, radical change. Let's dive into this provocative vision.
Right. Let's meet Francois. He's our main character, a man so completely hollowed out by modern life that even basic desire has just vanished. This quote, it's not just about a failed relationship. No, it's more like a diagnosis for a soul that's in terminal decline. He feels nothing, not for his lover, not for his life. And it's from this deep, personal void that the story's much bigger crisis starts to unfold.
You know, this story doesn't kick off with some big political event or breaking news. It starts quietly, with one man's personal crisis. It's a really powerful way to explore how the emptiness in one person's heart can perfectly mirror the emptiness of a whole country, creating this vacuum that something new, and maybe something dangerous, is just bound to fill.
Francois's life is just a masterclass in boredom, in what the French call ennui. He's an expert in a decadent 19th century author, a guy from a literary movement that was all about decay and rejecting the natural order of things. So basically, he studies decay while his own life is decaying right around him. He thinks his academic work is a joke, his relationships are purely transactional, and even when his parents die, he barely feels a thing. He's a man totally adrift, looking for something, anything, to believe in.
And this is where Francois becomes the perfect symbol for his country. The France in this novel is just spiritually exhausted. It's stuck in the past, it's fractured by all these social tensions, and it has absolutely no compelling vision for its own future. His personal emptiness isn't just his problem. It's a symptom of a much wider national sickness.
So, this widespread feeling of decay and pointlessness, it creates the perfect storm for a political earthquake, one that's about to reshape the entire nation in ways that almost nobody could have seen coming.
The year is 2022, and the old political system is just crumbling. And into that power vacuum steps the Muslim Brotherhood, led by this incredibly shrewd and charismatic man, Mohammed bin Abbas. And see, they aren't just offering new policies. They're offering a powerful vision of order, of purpose, of identity, to a nation that has completely lost its way.
Now, their path to power, as you can see here, is just a masterstroke of political desperation. After the far right wins the first round of the election, the panicked establishment makes a deal you would have thought was impossible. To keep the far right out, they throw all their support behind the Muslim Brotherhood. In one single calculated move, the old guard ushers in a brand new era. And just like that, Mohammed bin Abbas is president.
The immediate result of the election is just pure chaos. Information is hard to come by, but rumors of violence are spreading like wildfire. The supermarkets are empty, there's this feeling of total collapse in the air, and Francois does what a lot of people are doing. He gets out of Paris, hoping to just ride out the storm somewhere else.
But here's the twist. When the dust finally settles, what emerges isn't some violent, oppressive regime. Instead, President Ben Abbas's new government starts rolling out a series of sweeping and honestly, surprisingly seductive social changes.
The new government's vision is put into place with just stunning speed. They give women generous payments to leave their jobs, and poof, unemployment basically disappears. With a new focus on traditional values, crime just plummets. It's a radical reordering of society, trading what we think of as liberal freedoms for security and a restored sense of patriarchal order. So how do you get the country's intellectual elite on your side? Well, the answer turns out to be pretty simple. Money. Lots of it. Fueled by cash from the Gulf states, famous universities like the Sorbonne are turned into Islamic institutions. And for academics who are willing to convert, the rewards are huge. We're talking salaries that are triple what they used to be and a level of prestige they haven't seen in decades.
So this is the whole seductive package they offer to a guy like Francois. A life of status and wealth. The chance to pursue his intellectual passions without any of the modern pressures. And, maybe most importantly, an end to his crushing loneliness. The university literally promises to arrange marriages for him with young, educated women. And, under the new laws, he can have more than one.
This new system presents a direct challenge to modern feminism, for sure. The novel draws this stark contrast between the liberated Western woman, who it portrays as just exhausted by her career and her freedom, and the traditional Islamic woman, who finds her purpose and value inside the family. It really forces you, the reader, to confront a pretty uncomfortable question. Which of these models actually creates a more stable, or maybe even a happier, society?
Okay, so all of this brings Francois to his final, life-altering decision.
Does he try to hold on to the ruins of his old, empty life, or does he submit to this strange new world?
The offer is made to him personally by Robert Rediger, the university's charismatic new president, who is also a convert. And his argument is this: modern Western man, who is so burdened by freedom and endless competition, secretly just wants a simpler life. To be kept means to be taken care of, to be free from the constant anxiety of making choices, and to be put back in a position of status within a stable system.
So the choice is laid out, plain and simple. It's a transaction. On one side, you have his old life, a life of so-called freedom that only ever brought him loneliness and despair. On the other side, a new life that offers everything he thinks he's missing: purpose, community, comfort. And the price? His autonomy and his entire secular past.
Rediger's big argument is that the West collapsed under the sheer weight of its own freedom. He claims that real happiness isn't found in having limitless choices, but in submission. Submission to God's will, to a natural social order, to a system that gives you a clear and unwavering sense of purpose.
So there Francois stands, at the ultimate crossroads. Behind him is the old world of liberty and loneliness. In front of him is this new world that promises structure, purpose, and community, but at the cost of his individuality. He pictures the future that's on the table: a complete life reboot, with status, a family, and, as he imagines, no regrets.
And that right there is the deeply unsettling question at the very core of submission. The book doesn't give you an easy answer. It just presents a world where a tired, decadent civilization willingly trades its freedom for comfort and purpose. And it leaves all of us wondering, under the right circumstances, would we do the same? You know, ever so often, a book comes along that feels less like fiction and more like a prophecy. Well, in 2015, a novel dropped in France that did exactly that, sending these huge shockwaves through the country. Today, we're diving into Michel Houellebecq's Submission, a book that imagines a future that, honestly, feels eerily close to right now.
So the story kicks off with a really simple but totally electrifying idea. It's set in France, in the near future of 2022. And the country is, well, it's exhausted. It's politically torn apart, and people are just desperate for something, anything, new to believe in.
And right into that vacuum steps this brilliant, charismatic leader of a brand new Islamic party. Through some incredible political chess moves, he gets elected president of France. But here's the thing, this isn't just some political thriller. The novel is really a deep, profound diagnosis of what the author sees as this spiritual emptiness at the very core of the modern West.
But what made this book's release just unbelievably explosive was the timing. It was tragic, it was unbelievable. The very same day Submission hit the shelves, January 7th, 2015, was the day of the horrific Charlie Hebdo terrorist attack in Paris. And in this just cruel twist of fate, a close friend of the author was actually killed in that attack. It was this moment where fiction and a terrible reality just collided in the most shocking way you can imagine.
So you have to ask, who is the person who could write a book that feels so prophetic it almost predicts its own chaotic debut? Well, let's take a look at the man himself, Michel Houellebecq.
Michel Houellebecq isn't your typical novelist. A lot of people see him as more of a social prophet. And what's interesting is he didn't come up through France's elite school system, the Grandes Écoles, but his work is praised for being incredibly intellectually rigorous, backed by tons of research. His books have this reputation for feeling, well, chillingly plausible. Like you're not reading a story, you're getting a sneak peek at a future that's right around the corner.
Okay, so the real power of Submission, what makes it hit so hard, is its main character. He's a guy who perfectly embodies what Houellebecq is trying to say about this spiritual sickness in the modern West.
So let's meet our guy, Francois. He's a literature professor in Paris. He's a world expert on this obscure 19th century writer, but his own life? It's completely empty, just hollowed out, with no real meaning or connection to anything.
Francois is just profoundly alone. I mean, his parents were part of that 1960s me generation,
and they've lived these separate, distant lives. He never had a real family, no holidays together, no sense of belonging. They pretty much just left him to figure things out on his own.
And his love life is just as bleak. It's basically this repeating cycle of temporary, transactional affairs with his students. Each one lasts about a year, and then, like clockwork, it ends when the semester's over. There's no depth, no commitment, just this constant loop of temporary fixes for his loneliness. And get this, even his career, the one thing he has dedicated his entire life to, feels completely pointless to him. He looks at teaching literature and just sees it as useless. He thinks it offers zero real value to his students or to a society that frankly doesn't care anymore.
And right here, this is the key. Francois' personal despair isn't just his problem. The novel uses him as a mirror, right? He reflects this wider society that's basically abandoned all its traditions, faith, family, community, and it's left people just like him, totally isolated and adrift, with nothing real to hold on to.
So, how in the world does this spiritual vacuum, this deep societal emptiness, lead to such a massive political change? Let's break down how the novel imagines this whole new order taking power.
The book lays out this political scenario that feels just disturbingly possible. The far-right party is on the brink of winning the presidency, and the mainstream parties, both left and right, are so terrified that they do the unthinkable. They form this bizarre coalition and throw all their weight behind the leader of the new Muslim fraternity party, basically handing him the presidency just to keep the far-right out.
And this new government doesn't just change a few laws. No, it offers a completely different vision for what society should be. It says, we're going to replace the loneliness of individualism with the strength of community. We're going to fix declining birth rates by bringing back a patriarchal order. And we're going to trade your empty secular liberty for real religious meaning. It's a fundamental challenge to everything modern France is built on.
This new reality smashes right into France's most sacred ideal, laicity, which is the super strict separation of religion from all public life. The novel basically asks a tough question. What if that principle, in its effort to be neutral, ended up scrubbing all the soul and meaning out of society, creating a vacuum that something else was bound to fill?
And all of this brings us to the real heart of the book, the central conflict, the big choice that's so cleverly hidden right there in the title. What does submission actually mean here?
To explain the shift, the novel brings up this powerful old concept called asabiya. It's an Arabic term, and it means something like social cohesion or group solidarity. The argument in the book is that this is the force the new regime has, this powerful binding unity that a fragmented, individualistic West just doesn't have anymore. It's like the strength of a wolf pack versus a field full of lone wolves. So this huge societal change suddenly becomes intensely personal for Francois. His university gets bought out by some super wealthy patrons from the Gulf, and to keep his job, his prestige, his salary, he's given an offer, a choice that will define the rest of his life.
And the dilemma is just stark. Look at his options. If he says no to Islam, he gets to keep his individual freedom, a freedom, by the way, that has brought him nothing but loneliness and misery. He'll be cast out, professionally irrelevant. But if he embraces it, if he submits, he's offered everything he's missing, a top job, a huge salary, even multiple young wives arranged for him. The only price? His personal, modern liberty.
And this is the absolute genius of the novel. The title, Submission, is the literal English translation of the Arabic word Islam. So you see, the choice isn't just about political surrender, it's about a deep, personal submission, giving yourself over to a faith, to a system, just to escape the terrifying freedom of a life with no meaning.
In the end, the book doesn't give us any easy answers. It just leaves us with this deeply unsettling question that goes way beyond France. In a world where so many of us feel adrift, how much of our own freedom are you, willing to trade for a sense of meaning and belonging? It's a question that feels more urgent today than ever before.